Hey, today I'm gonna flip through my completed Q2 insert in my passport size bullet journal. The inserts I use are from GOODINKPRESSIONS. They are a 3.7mm grid and square corners, which is a custom request, but the inserts themselves are 68 GSM cream Tomobow River paper, and I've prepped this particular insert so it is ready to be archived. When you get them, they look more like this. They have a cover. This is my Q3 insert, but I like to remove the cardstock cover when I go to archive my inserts because it just makes them a little bit slimmer in the refill binder that I use. Okay, so for the Q2 flip through, hopefully this is zoomed in enough. I started this insert in April and I've been dipping in and out of it, but I have bothered to keep it up to date because so far my bullet journal in the passport size is my most complete record of 2023 thus far. I did a really simple cover page using some washi. This is the Deja Vu washi from Plus Minus. I got it from Journal Station, if I remember correctly. The tabs for each of the months, I tab at the end of the insert, so I don't use these while I'm currently using it. It's when I go ahead to archive it, I pop these on, and they are by Travelers Company as well. I like to put an index in each of my quarterly inserts just so I can keep up with it while I'm currently within the notebook. I do have a master index in my annual book, which I can do a separate video on if you would like. So the key information from here gets rewritten in my master index, but I like having an index per notebook just so I can write down everything. I typically start each month with a vision board or like a mood board, and I find pictures on Unsplash, Pinterest, sometimes Instagram, sometimes some of my own photos, and I print these out on sticker paper. I'll have the printer information in the description box for you. This is the quarter that I kind of discovered and fell in love with the week on one page, and I've had a lot of different variations of this particular layout, but the high level is I do a habit tracker at the top. I write out the actual date versus like Monday through Sunday just to save myself a little bit of writing, and beneath that it's a running Alistair list of things I need to accomplish throughout the week. I will soft schedule tasks by putting a dot underneath the corresponding date, and then as I set up my dailies, I reference this and pull this over to fill out my daily log. If there is a line, that typically means it's an event or an appointment, and I do that just to make finding things a little bit simpler as I'm looking through the spreads. Following my weeklies, I have my daily logs, and I am a huge fan of a daily log. I pretty much set up my to-do list the night before based off my weeklies and monthlies, and then I'll rapid log notes, highlights, and memories kind of on the side or right in line with my tasks, just sort of depends. All of my writing I do with my Pilot Vanishing Point in extra fine inked with the Atramentis Archive Ink, and all the hand lettering and most of my drawings are done with a Tomobow Fudenosuke hard tip brush pen, and again I'll have those in the description box for you. All the stickers on this page are from Daiso, and along with these little review sticky notes, I get asked about these a lot. I found them in Daiso at some point in 2022 in person. I get asked a lot if I do all my dailies together or how do I make space for notes and collections, and I just do them in line. So here I had a daily. I needed to take some notes on how I colored my hair, and then I move on to the next daily, and then I did sort of like a journaling spread after I got my hair cut. These photos are printed with my like computer printer, and again I'll have that information down below. Another review. This is the first time I did a co-hosted live stream with Randy. This was a new pen day. This was a weekend getaway for my husband's birthday. I think I did a Daily Log Diaries episode on this, but this is printed using my Instax mini camera, And I had sort of like information for our Airbnb, a packing list, and then a couple of dailies. If you see any reflective photos like this, those are printed with my Canon IV Mini 2. This is a freebie from Megan Rhiannon when she hit 50K. This spread was a lot of fun. This is when my sister and her husband came to visit. We got a couple of plants, so I've got like the plant care information down below. More photos printed out. And then May. Another thing I like to do is print out a habit tracker. This is from Peanuts Planner Co. This is number 154 in pocket size. Same weekly spreads. This month I made a slight change to highlight when I was traveling, so it was obvious when I was at home and when I wasn't, and I was home once in 2 weeks. This is when I was getting back into Animal Crossing, and I redid some sections on my island, and I printed out photos and made a little accordion. May is when I added this like mood log / gratitude log into my lineup. I started it on the 10th, which is why it doesn't start at the 1st, but I basically track like 4 moods, like really sad to really excited, and do a dot under for every day and then connect it. And this is sort of like a gratitude log. It's basically like what made life worth living that day. I like to note it down, and it's just like a good mindfulness practice that like life is good most of the time. And I've been in a bit of a depressive episode, I suppose, and so this has been good just to see that there are more highs than lows. And yeah, I've kept up with the practice since because I think it's been good for me mentally. This is when I first started thinking about using the A6 Techo. Brandon got me flowers. This was a meal planning spread, and it basically was like 2 rows per day, so I could track like what I wanted to eat for lunch and what I wanted to eat for dinner with space for a grocery list down below. I think this spread could really work for me, but I was out of town for like 2.5 weeks out of this month, so I didn't really use it, but I might add this back in the future. A visual system update idea. Went to the library and got some books. So one thing that I do is I use my Trodat stamp that I got from Amazon. I can have that number down below if you're looking for one. But I use this self-inking stamp when I'm traveling. It's kind of annoying to travel with it, but I like the visual of like, oh, I'm at home, or oh, I was on the road as I flip through things. So this was a trip back home, and I typically do a day per page when I'm traveling in my bullet journal. That way I've got plenty of room to sort of memory keep or draw things that I see or print in photos, because I find keeping my bullet journal up to date while I'm traveling as sort of like my record works better if I do want to make like a travel insert spread or memory keeping in like my Hobonichi cousin, for example. This is like my system of record and what I'm more likely to keep up to date. And honestly, moving forward, I just sort of treat my bullet journal insert as my travel insert and save myself the rewriting. Into a funeral for a family member. More photos. This is when we went to Montana. More photos from Montana. We went to a wedding, which is really beautiful. And then June. This was June's mood log in full. It's so satisfying to look at. The little smiley face stickers that I used are from Midori, if I remember right. And this month in the weekly spread, I added a couple things. I added a line just to help me visualize when I was under the dated section a little bit easier. And then I also used the column to the left to do a dot to indicate a completed task, just so it was really easy at the end of the week to be like what was outstanding and if I wanted to move it over or not. and that's something that I've kind of kept up. That is one thing I'm really loving about bullet journaling this year, is getting back into the habit of being like, okay, that worked, but I need to make a small tweak, or I think this would improve things, and feeling like I've got the flexibility to do that a little bit more than I typically feel in like a predated planner, for example. In June, we went to Alaska, so this was like a packing list. My husband and I built a fort. I read Kingdom of the Wicked this month. I haven't read a book in so long. I've just been out of practice. This is when I got the new printer because my HP gave out on me and I don't want to talk about it. This is when we went to Seattle, so we're back to the stamps. I had a high-level itinerary for the Alaska cruise that we were on, just because I don't do well with tracking things digitally. I just work better on paper. And then my daily logs. I did a lot of like field sketching this trip, and to be honest, I was in my pocket-sized bullet journal, so a lot of this I've just copied over in my spare time because I want to have like one complete thing at the end of the year. But now that I'm back in Passport, I'm glad I took the time to do it because it's still nice to flip through. This is when we got on the cruise and we could see the Seattle skyline. I really love how these turned out redoing them, but we went on like an adventure excursion and we saw a bunch of humpback whales and a volcano and just beautiful scenery, so it was fun to kind of recreate that. We went to Icy Strait Point. We took a seaplane and flew over some glaciers in Alaska. That was really, really cool. I enjoyed that a lot. And then I'm glad I got the opportunity to redo this one, because when I did this in my pocket bullet journal, it was one of my least favorite sketches, but it turned out so good in here. And I made one day in Canada and it was just like a really beautiful sunset, so I wanted to add that in too. And that pretty much brings us to the end of quarter 2. For my quarter 3 setup, I kept it really simple, and I typically do the intro page, like I mentioned, and this is the, I'll have to put the shop or the designer down below, but this was a transfer sticker sheet from Journal Station. And then my index, which I haven't added to yet, and then my vision board, habit tracker. I added a content calendar for July. My mood and gratitude log. I once more improved on the weekly spreads. And then my daily logs.